What if the thing that was supposed to protect your health is the very thing destroying it? At 25 years old, after 12 routine fillings, Martin Pytela's body started collapsing. Pain, allergies, brain fog, and even suicidal thoughts, while doctors kept insisting that everything was fine. This episode is his fight back against a system that profits from keeping people sick. Let's get started.
So mercury is really affecting your everything. I suffered plenty and was contemplating ending it. The whole family gets marked immediately.
Wow.
I would sleep face down on a recliner and crawl from there to the toilet because I couldn't walk.
Thank you, Martin, for being on From Wounds to Wisdom. We're excited to have you here.
I'm just really excited to be here with you.
Yes, I enjoyed our conversation previous to this, and so I am very interested in you telling your story, where you started, kind of what you've learned from it. So I will leave it to you.
Yeah, I've told it a few times, and I'm trying to come up with a nice, short enough version that it's not too boring to tell. But I grew up in an unusual setting, Eastern Europe, communist paradise, police state. I didn't know we were poor, but by American standards, soon after World War II, and just terrible stuff. But anyway, I grew up with the indoctrination of the Eastern Bloc. So when I finally woke up at about 23, together with a few friends, I headed out west as a refugee. Back 1976, it was, they took us. And so in 77, with my first job and a health coverage with the unionized job that I was working in, I showed up at a dentist's office for a checkup. And they said, "Do you have health insurance?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I do," thinking that's a trophy.
Right.
He doesn't care how much he spends. And I didn't. So when the doctor said, "Well, you need a whole bunch of fillings, see over here, this is weak," and la, 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 whatever, I ended up with 12 fillings. And then they said, "Well, the silver ones cost nothing extra and last twice as long than the white ones." And I said, "Well, I'm not vain. These are fillings."
Right.
So I asked, "Is there any other difference?" No. Well, there is a difference. The silver fillings are, in fact, mercury, silver, amalgam fillings, which happens to be the most toxic things you can put into a human body.
What did your existence prior to coming to the United States?
Well, I was a privileged, smart kid, right? Like, I went to university. I ended up studying computer science and business administration. My dad was a veterinarian. I was upper middle class. I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
And of course, the Czechoslovakian upper middle class was bottom of the barrel here.
Right. Exactly. I find that a lot with people who come from other countries. They're educated in their country, and then they come here and they cannot get jobs in the education that they have.
That was the most shocking thing.
Yeah.
In Europe, they say, "You have credentials, come do it." But socially, you're never accepted. Like, if you're a migrant, you will never be dining with the locals. Like, you're always on the outside.
Yeah. So you're in Canada now.
I am presently in Canada, married a Canadian woman and have Canadian children.
And so from the life that you were in growing up, why would you tell us about what prompted you to move from it?
Yeah, so there I am, third year of university, and I'm being asked to join the Communist Party. What that means is that you're going to be snitching on others and you're going to be certified in lies. I took a state board exam in the Marxist-Leninist doctrine. I lived in a world where fear was the main weapon. And the fear was this: 1 in 5 was working for the secret police, or was at least part of the secret police. One of my close friends was asked to join, and he came to us saying, "What do I do? If I tell them no, they're going to block me. If I tell them yes, I'm a snitch," let's call it that.
Yeah.
The snitch would go once a month to talk with a kind person who would listen to you, talk about whatever your life is. Who did you talk to? What did you hear? What are your friends saying? Blah, 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 whatever. And everybody has a file, and your file has what the reporting people have told about you. So if you are deemed to be unreliable, you're marked for not able to hold certain positions. The only thing he could get was overseeing shepherds in the mountains.
His brother left and quote unquote turned his back on the country. He was a black sheep of the society. And then
the whole family gets marked immediately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so when you're fleeing and you're hoping to come to a new country for a fresh start, and then you come here and they're like, yeah, no, basically you can only get a low-level job as well, no matter what your education is. What is that like?
Well, it was very puzzling, right? Like I showed up at a job interview and they said, what's your Canadian experience? And I said, well, I just got here, but I know how to do this. After, I don't know what, 10 interviews, I finally found a little company, small business, and I said to them, I'll work here for 3 months for free. I will do an internship. I'll show you. So they took me with that. And after 2 months, they couldn't stand it anymore and offered me a job. I spent 20-something years in the information technology, business consulting, that sort of thing. And
when you got part of the union and you started getting healthcare benefits, I mean, obviously we'll go into what happened with your treatment that you got, but I'm understanding like what you came from.
It was not fully owned by the pharmaceutical concerns. The dentistry was primitive. They drilled it with primitive machinery, but I showed up with no fillings.
Right.
And all of a sudden I needed a dozen.
Right. Well, because they obviously were making money. So you came in trusting the healthcare system.
Oh yeah, totally. When I arrived in an office that's got the guy in a white lab coat and diploma on the wall, I assumed that just like my dad would do the right thing for the client, right? We would always treat the customer, I'll do right by you. First, do no harm kind of statement.
Right. And that's what doctors are supposed to do. But you very quickly learned that once you had insurance, they had no problem putting fillings in your mouth that were toxic.
I don't even hold it against the guy, right? Like you go to a university, they just pump your head full of how it's done.
Right.
And if you don't question it, and you have nothing to go on to question it, like you don't know what happens 5 or 10 years down the line.
Sure.
You're just at school.
And I agree with that. Like they don't know, they didn't then, and I still think to this day, they don't necessarily know the long-term side effects of stuff. And in the same breath, he did know that the more fillings you got, the more money he made.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
Right. So there's a difference between like understanding the side effects and not having that knowledge because you're not taught it, and also using the system to make yourself rich.
Yeah, that was that. I mean, the boy came from Scotland to rural Canada, and I ran into him later, and yeah, he did fine.
Yeah. If the system wasn't built in a way that the doctor got paid, the dentist got paid so much more by the more he did for you, even if it wasn't necessary, you probably wouldn't have ended up in that situation.
So many things would be different if there were not the divorce between the consumer and the cost of things and the payment for things, right? This is as something special where you have divorced, well, you have inserted the health insurance company in between the patient and the doctor.
Right.
Right. And so all of a sudden, I couldn't care less what it cost. I was getting procedures done, not because they were needed, but because they were covered.
So tell us what happened after you got all of these fillings.
The decline, right? Mercury is super toxic. So first thing that I noticed is I had a herpes breakout, first time in my life. So I had been infected since I was 18, and I was 25, and boom, all of a sudden I had herpes all over my face. Then I got a flu, like a terrible flu. Then carpal tunnel syndrome kicked in. All of a sudden I was getting pains in my forearms. Then plantar fasciitis kicked in. Then my back went out. That was really bad. Mercury tends to wreck the connective tissue. That's where it goes to hide in the body. And as it's being hidden there, it just starts taking apart your ability to hold together.
And so do you find in your work that a lot of people have these symptoms, but they have no idea why? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
these days I'm teaching it and helping people understand it and so on, right? And it's interesting. I now tell them, look, your illness, your chronic, degenerative, mostly metabolic illness stands on 4 pillars.
yeah.
That would be toxicity, malnutrition, stagnation, and trauma,
Mm,
each of which contributes to the special soup that's
yeah.
going to be your local situation.
With so many people back then getting fillings that had mercury in them, I would say that there's probably a relatively large pandemic of people now getting ill.
Well, interestingly, there are genetics involved. I happen to be one of the people with the MTHFR gene.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about a third or so of the population that have it. We're poor methylators, meaning we don't detox well.
Right.
So the other 2/3 are much better at detoxification.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't suffer nearly as much as the ones that don't detox.
Mm-hmm.
So I broke down faster, right?
Right, because it sounds like basically relatively soon after getting these mercury fillings, you just started coming up with all kinds of various different
Oh, yeah, it
illnesses
was
and
quick.
symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah, I failed to mention that I started getting allergies and back pains. And I mean, I got bad. I was 2, 3 times a year, I would lose my back adjustment in such way that I would sleep face down on a recliner and crawl from there to the toilet because I couldn't walk.
And how did you come across whatever it is that you do now to help people? How did you figure out how to get better?
About 10 years in, having tried to get help from the mainstream, the orthopedic surgeon and the chiropractor and the naturopath, and then some more esoteric stuff, all kinds of things. I tried a lot of things.
Yeah.
And eventually I had this illumination. They're doing it all wrong. Because I was in management consulting. In management consulting, you ask 2 questions. If there's a problem, can we measure it? And what is the root cause of it?
Right.
In the medical system, they don't do that. They measure it, but then they say, is there chemical with which we can monitor or manage that symptom? They never go past the point of presentation. They never ask what's behind it. So I had that moment of illumination where that's what the problem is. So I had to start learning,
And so
which
what
is
is,
I'm
sorry.
toxic
Yeah.
and I'm toxic with mercury.
Right.
And it can be undone. These are the ways to do it.
And so what are the ways?
So for me, it was zeolite. Zeolite is a mineral that's abundant in nature. And when you take it, it binds the heavy metals and excretes them or helps to take them out of the body.
Can you spell that word for us? Like, I don't know that word.
Zeolite.
Okay.
So you take that. I took that. And then I also took humic acid, which helps to restore a better balance in the digestive system because mercury will completely break down the microbiome in the gut.
Right.
So humic will help to restore a better terrain. And then I found a formula of free-form amino acids. They help to restore the broken connective tissue.
Okay.
All tissue is made up of proteins, and proteins are made up of amino acids, and 8 of them are essential, meaning you have to acquire them from out there. They cannot be assembled in the body. So those are the supplements that I was taking. And indeed, on top of chiropractic and naturopathic and whatever else that I was getting help with, I was less frequently falling apart. And then I wasn't falling apart. And then my allergies went away. And then my weight normalized. And then my brain fog went away. All of that slowly peeled away as I detoxed and rebuilt.
How come if you can figure it out, doctors can't figure it out?
Oh, they can figure it out, and many have, and it's called functional medicine.
Okay.
The problem is that functional medicine is out there, not covered by insurance.
Right. That's true.
So everything that I had to do was cash outlay straight up. The health insurance doesn't apply, right? The health insurance industry is in cahoots with the pharmaceutical industry, and the only thing you can get that is covered is the stuff that makes you more sick.
Yeah. The things that have the side effects that then they give you stuff for the side effects and then I talked to somebody else about this and different than your story as far as like illnesses, but we were talking about that with the mental health institute, the mental health system. It's the same idea. Instead of helping you
Yeah,
get better, they just continue to
let's dwell on
medicate
that for just a brief moment.
Yeah.
So mercury is really affecting your everything.
Mhm.
It made me quite suicidal, really. Like I
Mhm.
suffered plenty and was contemplating ending it. And anyway, not fun. Later, I found out that 75% of prescriptions that are filled are for dealing with either depression or anxiety.
Wow.
I studied as a metabolic typing advisor. Metabolic typing is, by the way, a really cool thing because it helps you understand how food inputs interact with your genetics, creating your inner terrain, your reality. Food choices, or how you structure your meals, has
Right.
a profound effect on your emotional outcomes.
Well-being. Well, and so goes into that conversation that we've been having here in the United States. All of our food has toxins on it. Like our fruits are dipped in wax, and we have pesticides, and we have stuff that's put in the ground to make the food grow when it's not supposed to grow. So it's this, even the organic food, right? So even if you try to eat well, you're still not eating well.
Yeah, it's challenging. Yeah, you should not give up. You should still go organic as much as you can. There are two main problems. One is the nutrient density, which is
Right.
declining, and the other one is the herbicide, pesticide, plastic, whatever toxicity that's coming in with it.
And a third problem, not to interrupt you, is affordability. Basically, unless you have money, you can't afford good food. And unless you have money to afford somebody like I don't know how much you charge and all of those different things, but unless you have money like you did to go to a functional, doctor, I go to a functional doctor and have to pay out of pocket for it because insurance doesn't pay for it. But unless you have the money to do that, you don't ever get better.
Right. And I have a full understanding of this. And so today, the typical story is, well, the functional medicine doctor asks for $6,000. $3,000 of it is for testing, and the other $3,000 are for $500 an hour interactions. And we do it differently. I tell people, I don't need to test you. All you have to do is tell me what's happening with you, because you already are toxic, you already are malnourished, and you already are having the symptoms. I don't have to spend $2,000 on testing to tell you what's going on, because you're telling me. And the second thing is, we give the consultation away with, so long as you shop here in our business buying your supplementation, and you have to buy supplementation in order to compensate for the disasters that's presented as food. That is what keeps us in business. So I'm not rich, but I sleep well.
Then I go into this, like the supplements oftentimes are not that great, right? So like if you go buy a supplement on Amazon, you're just getting a bunch of fillers. You're getting stuff that's really not doing anything for you. So you're literally just spending money for nothing.
Here's an interesting bit. The business that I have, it's called Life Enthusiast. We represent mostly small businesses, companies that are still owned and run by the founders.
Right.
Those people are primarily in that business because they care. By the time they either sell or retire or die, the business is sold to some publicly traded larger company that doesn't have the passion for the outcome. They have a concern with the bottom line.
Right.
And so as they fiddle with the inputs to squeeze the maximum profit out of it, they end up creating products that previously were effective. Now they're just marginal. And then if you run into the real sharks, private label a health product, get it made for $5 and sell it for $50. That's the Amazon supplement model.
Yeah, definitely. Because then a lot of that stuff has toxic things in it.
They would be contamination, most likely.
Right. Right. And heavy metals is what I was thinking of. A lot of those have heavy metals from what I understand as well. And people don't understand what heavy metals do to your body, right?
Right.
Mercury is a heavy metal. I've done
that lead, cadmium, mercury, thorium, uranium, arsenic. Those are the common things that show up that are toxic. and cause trouble.
Right. And so people are asking, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And they don't understand that it's this intake of all of these poisonous things that are causing a lot of these issues, right?
Mhm.
So many small companies are selling to bigger companies, right? So are you having a problem trying to keep your companies that you get your products from? Or are you finding that there's a lot of companies where, you know, you used to be able to get healthy, good products from them, and now you're finding that it's harder and harder and harder?
Absolutely. Yep. There's definitely a drift. We keep losing companies because they age out or sell out or whatever. And so we have to replace it.
Right.
And well, that's the whole collusion that we watch. The political system supports the big business
Right.
more than it supports the small business,
Right.
because it's easier to go raise $100,000 from one person than $10,000 contributions, right?
Right.
So you make the one phone call to the one big contributor and you're done.
And that comes at a cost.
And then when you call the next time doing your re-election campaign, they will say, well, what have you done for me in the last 2 years or 6
Right.
years?
What is your solution to all of this?
Well, the big picture is get money out of politics.
Right.
That's the big movement, right?
Right.
Like,
And that's not happening anytime in the near future.
Well, the system is precarious. When you want to make a change, you don't try and defeat the old. What you do is you start building the new and hope that people will join you there. So we do have that. There's this alternative movement. It exists.
Right.
All it takes is maybe 20% of people switching to the other. The main one has to follow.
Right.
To give you an example, we had full-on censorship on information until Twitter got sold. Mr. Musk showed up and said, we are here for truth, and opened the door. And all of a sudden, just this one company that stopped lying caused everything to shift. We can do that anywhere as long as people wake up.
If the supplements are made with food that has been grown through the system, the people that you use that make your supplements, do they grow their own food, or are they using the food that's basically grown in the system of toxicity?
Well, that's a long one. So, for example, we used to use lecithin. Lecithin is an important emulsifier. It's extracted from plants. We used to get it out of soy. And then soy became so corrupted that you can no longer buy organic soy. Then you were able to buy species-specific soy, which we could test for and confirm that it is not the GMO soy. But eventually we gave up and we switched to the more expensive sunflower sunflower lecithin, 80% of which is grown in Ukraine. So then you end up with the war, and then you...
Right. That's what I was just thinking as soon as you said that, right?
Right. And so that's just a single example of one of those many things that we're fighting with. For example, the minerals that you need, like zinc, copper, chromium, vanadium, iron, sulfur, blah, 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 that whole lineup, trace minerals. There's a process that we use. We feed it to a yeast, baker's yeast. It's called Saccharomyces cerevisiae. When yeast consumes something, so we mix it with potato starch or something like that, when the yeast eats the starch mixed in with the extra ingredient, it becomes embedded in a living matrix, which is very similar to what happens when a carrot is fed calcium and magnesium and potassium from the dirt, from the soil, right? Right. Because you, human, don't digest the minerals directly. There are microbes living in the soil that are liberating the minerals out of the soil so that the plant can take it into its body. And so when you eat the plant, you are eating it now in the form that's usable in your body. So
we're going to wrap up a little bit here, but how interesting that you started off in a very different path, and then because of your own journey to get well, ended up with this person who's talking about the soil and all of this different stuff that you had to learn basically so that you could get better and help other people, right?
Right.
So you said people don't pay for their consultation. They don't have to do $2,000 or $3,000 worth of labs like if they went to a traditional functional medicine doctor. And as long as they buy the products through you, that's just basically, that's your agreement. So I'm going to help you, but I want you to buy the products through me because that's actually how I earn my income and pay for my home and my family and all of these various different things.
Yeah. If you
Which
don't,
sounds
if you don't shop here, we'll be out of business and good luck.
right. And then nobody's fighting for you, right? So the
Mhm.
reason why I said it that way is because I think it's important for people to understand, like, that your contribution to the world still has to be sustained by worldly manners. Like, you still have to pay money and pay your bills, and you're doing this, to help people, but you also have a lifestyle that you have to be able to
Yeah.
afford, right?
Well, you put your finger on something super important. I mentioned money out of politics. The other thing is the power of the consumer. The power is in the wallet. Where
Mhm.
you put a dollar on the till, you're placing an order for the item to be replaced.
Right.
So if you're placing your orders for toxic stuff, they will make more of the toxic stuff.
Yes,
Be
exactly.
careful what you pay for because you're going to end up with more of that.
I find it very interesting. I actually would be interested in doing a consultation personally, because of my own journey and stuff. And I know what you're saying is true due to my own research and my own past and my own issues and my own physical issues that I've had to deal with, and all of the money that I put into it, just like you did, right?
Mhm.
So I'm very interested. Now, if somebody is interested, also finds this, so that may be something they want to explore, how do they find you?
The website's called Life Enthusiast, and
Mm-hmm.
it has a hyphen in it, life-enthusiast.com.
Okay.
We have a channel on Telegram as Life Enthusiast and YouTube as Life Enthusiast. On Telegram, we still are free to say anything we want.
What would you tell somebody? What's your wisdom to people? Anything, a lesson that you've learned in life, but what would you tell people who are listening?
Well, one of the most interesting things I've learned in my life was dowsing or muscle testing. This
Mm-hmm.
is a method recommended or developed by David Hawkins in
Yep.
a book called Power versus Force.
Yep.
And in it, he teaches one of 7 methods of you interrogating the universal field of consciousness and
Mm-hmm.
making a statement. And the
Mm-hmm.
statement could be answered with true or untrue.
Right.
So when you say, this guy that I'm listening to here on this podcast is telling the truth,
Mm-hmm.
it's either true or not true. And you can do, here's a method. You can connect your pinky with your thumb and stick your finger in that and just try to pull it apart. And
Right.
for about 3 seconds after you make a true statement, it will hold stronger than when you make a false statement. So if I say my gender is female, it breaks. If I say
Mm.
my gender is male, it holds.
I love David Hawkins. I know that work as well. I don't do it as much as I should, but muscle testing is a big thing in functional medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can connect to the universal field of consciousness, where truth or falsehood are simply known
Right.
and demonstrated.
Right. Well, we appreciate you. I will put all of your information in the description so that people can reach out to you. Don't be surprised if you actually hear from me. Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. If this story spoke to you, let's keep the healing going. Visit barbiemoreno.com for my online course, Awakening Your Worth and Healing Energy sessions, one-on-one coaching, and your free healing guide. Your next step is waiting.